friends. It's Tracey, Boris is out there, Violet's right there, and I got Freddie in my house now. Oh yeah, he's going to be a permanent fixture here in my house. He moves and he talks and all that stuff, and he has quite the attitude, this fella. Anyways, from tea time with Tracey and everybody else. I'm not having tea right now. I'm having my morning coffee. It's about 7:30 in the morning. I got to sleep in a little bit today. We went for a little walk. Still dark out, but it's okay now. I'm going to do a quick what I read in October list. Like, I got this pile here, and I didn't read everything that I set out to read. When I did my TBR pile, I don't generally do TBR piles. I set the bar high in the sense that I knew I picked more books than I could actually read. And I actually read more books than I thought. Some of them were on the TBR. One of them was not even on my TBR, but I have it here anyways. So, anyways, this is in no particular order. Let me have a first jolt of coffee though, because boy, I need it. It's Saturday morning right now. I got to take my son to hockey here in a little bit, and it's just going to be a whackers crackers day. So, just because it's sitting on the top of the pile. This is Bestial by Ray Garton. I think I was saying Grattan before, but it's Garton. I don't know. Anyways, this is book 2. You don't have to read them. Like, you don't have to read part 1 and part 2. They're 2 different stories, but there is a connection. This book focuses on some investigators, like almost like paranormal, or I don't know what they'd be called, investigators that go on these weird trips to find out about strange happenings. Anyways, in the last book, Ravenous, I read, and I did a video on that last year. If I think of it, I'll put it down below. This is a werewolf story. These investigators, I'll just call them that, I forget names, but a man and a woman are sent to this town where the first book happened, because there had been a strange number of animal attacks, and what happened at the last book, prominent people in the community disappeared, and they sent one investigator and they never returned, and they're sending 2 more investigators. It's hard to explain what's in this book because of what the other one is, but to keep it simple, werewolves are taking over this big town or small city, whatever you want to call it, because they look like people, but they can shift. They can shift into wolves and be absolutely brutal. There's trigger warnings for this, like there's sexual assault. The wolf virus is transmitted through sexual means. Like, if you get bit by a werewolf, you're not going to turn into one. If you have sex with one, yeah, you're going to turn into a werewolf. And yeah, I enjoyed it. It's certainly not like a scary book, but it was I thought it was a good werewolf. Both of the books, they're raw and gritty, kind of, but I enjoyed it. I would recommend it if you're looking for a werewolf story. This one and Ravenous, they're in the same world, so there you go. Another one I read was Dead Man's Song. This is part of a trilogy. Last year I read the first book, I forget what it's called, and this year I read the second book, and next year I'll read the next book. And it's a really good Halloween story, like the big one. It's not the kind of story for me that I would sit down and read all 3 books. Some series I could do that, and I want to read the 3rd book, and I'm going to read the 3rd book, but I'm not going to read it right now. This, again, can't really explain a whole lot what is in this book, but in the first book, it's about this town, and their big holiday is Halloween. Like, that's their main cheese kind of thing of whatever. There's a Halloween shop, there's a haunted hayride, and the way they explain it in the book, how that is, it sounds absolutely phenomenal. Anyways, Boris, oh, it's got a bottle. In that book, I carved like criminals crashes in a field in that town, and crazy things start happening. Also, there's a backstory of this town, of the Qatar man and his history. He was an African-American man that was brutally murdered. Racism and all that stuff is into it, but there's paranormal in it too, and evil. Evil entity. I don't know really, it's not one specific thing. Just a second, Mish. One of my girls just came downstairs. I'll just finish talking about this, and then why don't you go get some brekkie? I'll be done in a sec. Like an evil entity. But this follows a town full of characters. This isn't just one character. There's a handful of characters that you follow their backstory and where they are now. And it's just, it feels like you're watching a TV miniseries and trying to figure out what the heck, because people up and die that you don't think is going to up and die kind of thing. And I don't want to say too much about it. This is certainly not a new book. This is not a new book. I don't know when this was made or published. A lot of these are not. But that's okay. I don't mind that. A leisure book, April 2009. That might be. For that one. This one's probably in the 90s. Maybe 80s. I don't know. They're going to start horsing around. That's typical for 2007. Not as old as I thought. First printing 2007. Well, there you go. That one. Another one I read was Poppy Z. Bright. Oh, I was going to stop. Let me talk about this one quick. Poppy Z. Bright, Lost Souls. This was a good one. I really enjoyed it. This is about vampires and humans. It follows the background of younger vampires and one older vampire. And I swear to God. Okay, you're not bumping here. My coffee's here and these guys are standing here. Go. I put the ponytail right here in Boris's forehead because his hair's so long. Okay, Violet. There's a little rock band in here called Lost Souls. There's just, it's almost like a coming of age story. I'm not very good at explaining this, but this takes place kind of like in New Orleans, Louisiana, like down a strip. There's a road trip in this. There's drugs, sex, and rock and roll in this. I think it says it right on here. Sex, blood, and rock and roll. And drugs and alcohol. Oh, Boris. Yeah. Anyways, that's all I'll say about that. This is my very first Poppy Z. Bright book. And I enjoyed it. It was different than I thought it was going to be. But I would certainly recommend it if you're looking for a coming of an age with a little bit of disturbing elements. There is assault in this too, so trigger warnings for any books that I read. But the Poppy Z. Bright. Now, just a minute. I think one of my boys are coming downstairs. I'll be back in a bit. I will get this stinking TBR. Or not TBR. What I read in October done. And today sometime. Alright, I'm out in the kitchen. You see Jerry hanging up right there? Yeah. Anyways, the kids are out there. So I'm out here. Anyways, I'll try to finish this up. Another one I read, I wanted to read the Practical Magic book just because the movie and all that stuff. And this was okay. It's not like the movie. The characters are different. Yeah. And this is kind of like, the writing styles, it's okay. It was easy to read, but they didn't really get into a lot of description instead of showing it. Like when I read books, I see it in my mind. It's like a movie. Instead of showing it, they just tell you something like, I don't know, an example, not from this book, but I don't know, somebody fell down a mountain, and that's all they would say. They wouldn't go into big description. They fell down the hill and tumbled and bumped into this, and it was cold and hard, and the jabs and all that stuff. They don't go, I mean, that wasn't even in this book, but it was okay. It wasn't like a great big story that gripped me, because it certainly did not, but it was all right. This is book 2 in a 4-book series, I guess. I don't know if you have to read them in order. But yeah, certainly not like the movie. But it is a good story. It's just not my style. And personally, I like the movie better than the book. But that's me. That's me. So, all right. This one, I read Zombie by Joyce Carol Oates. It's not very long. This is a disturbing, well, the flipper. Yes, it is. This is about a sexual psychopath. And this whole book is from his perspective, I think, the whole book. So you're reading this, again, not very long, but just the depraved outlook on life. And yeah, the young man that's in here, I forget what the hell his name is. I can't even remember. My name is QP, and I'm 31 years old and 3 months. Height 5'10", weight 147 pounds. Eyes brown, hair brown, medium build, light scattering of freckles on arm, back. Astigmatism in both eyes, corrective lenses required for driving. Distinguishing features, none. He's an average run-of-the-mill gray man. Those are the ones you had to watch out for, apparently. And yeah, he's not a child, but basically when he was younger, he sexually assaulted a 12-year-old mentally handicapped young boy. And he got off like with probation because his father is a university professor and is friends with the judge. But his dad set him up to be the caretaker of this apartment for these university students. So he's the caretaker of the building. He lives in an apartment, but his chamber is down in the basement. And all the students that rent apartments there are generally international students, and they mind their own business. Those are none of his prey. He has it in his mind, he wants to create the perfect zombie, one that will do everything he says and be his sex slave and look at him like he's the bee's knees, pretty much, which is ridiculous. And he ends up finding out how to do, how they used to do lobotomies with tools that go up under the eye into the brain. And it's brutal. He tries to experiment doing this with some people he tricks in to his home. Men, like he's homosexual, which, whatever. And it's disturbing in the sense, like, oh my goodness. And there's one, I mean, they're all disturbing, but one in particular is a young man. He nicknames Squirrel, and he becomes obsessed with this young 15-year-old boy who has everything in life, you know, like he's kind of jealous of him because he has a perfect life. He just, whatever. I don't know, it stuck with me a little bit after I was done reading this. Again, it's short and to the point, and certainly not everybody's cup of tea. And the way it ended off was, I liked the way it ended, even though it leaves you like, oh, you son of a bitch. It ends off on like a Christmas dinner with his family. Like he's the son. He has a sister. He has a prominent father. He has his mother. He has his nan. He has, you know, a good life. He's just a sick individual. And yeah, they don't know anything of his side. They knew what he did before, but they're all trying to help him and get him back on track, because they thought it was just a misunderstanding what happened years ago when he was younger. Anyways, I would recommend it for that. If you're into disturbing stories, I like to read, sounds weird, I like to read books that really push the limit of humanity and depravity, and yeah, I don't have a big repertoire in reading those kind of books, but I would put that in that category. Just a minute, one of my girls are making some hot chocolate. Look at the two behind her. Okay, another one I read was Let the Right One In. I really enjoyed this book. I read this. This is perfect for this time of year. And yeah, all of these are actually that I've mentioned so far, I think. This follows a few different characters, but Oscar is a young boy. He's obsessed with murders that are going on in his community, and there's a little girl that lives next to him, and she befriends him kind of. She's a little weird. It's cold out, but she doesn't have a jacket on, and she doesn't seem familiar with the things that young people are familiar with. Like, he has a Rubik's Cube, and he offers it to her to use overnight, and when she brings it back, she has it solved, and he's like blown away by that. There's a movie to this, and I would like to watch it, but I thought this was absolutely wonderful. Like I said, it follows a few different characters. There's murders going on. A little boy, he's bullied at school. He's kind of awkward. He doesn't really have many friends, and but he has this little girl. She doesn't go to school or anything like that, and she only comes out at night. She's quiet, and turns out she's a vampire. Don't really get into how old she is, I don't think. I can't remember. He doesn't realize this. He doesn't know this. This little boy doesn't know this. He finds himself looking forward to spending time with her. And they're just kids. And I would highly recommend it. A few of the other characters in it are like parents and the bullies. You hear about them and what they do. It's just all around good story. And I would certainly read this again. Absolutely. It's perfect for this time of year. And the chapters are like November 8th. It's November like 5th or something right now. I don't know. So it goes from, I think it starts in October at some point. I think. Perfect timing. October 29th. Yeah. Yes. Not scary, but it's almost like heartwarming. But it's not a light, fluffy story at all. It absolutely is not. There's like killing and blood and disturbing elements in regards to like parents and all that sort of thing. It just has a little bit of everything. One I really did not like at all was 12 Nights at Rotter House. I read this. I was thinking, oh, right, I'll get a haunted house book into this month, because I love haunted houses and I have lots of books, but this was one of them, and it wasn't too long. I thought, oh, I'll knock that one off. I shouldn't say I hated it, because I didn't hate it, but this falls into the same category as I'm Thinking of Ending Things. I did a video on that. I did not like that book. This is about a man who goes to this haunted house. He's a writer, and he's trying to kickstart his writing again. This will be his big break to bring him back to success. Boris, stop it! And this house is known for being haunted, apparently. He goes there by himself and stays a few days. After that, just a minute. All right, I brought them out here because they're just making too much of a racket. Yeah, he goes to this house to try to get writing inspiration and investigate a bit. And it follows through his mind and his take on it. There are some eerie bits in this, little creepy bits. And when his friend comes, they have a history together. And there's some sort of element where, like, some sort of reason the main character has a beef with this friend. But really it's been his best friend for a long time. But there's a big beef between them. And his friend's like, well, I don't have to stay here. You know what I mean? But he gets him to stay. I don't know. It's disappointing. It's disappointing. Very disappointing. A lot of people, and I'm sorry if it's one of you guys really liked. But the ending just ruined it all for me because I'm like, for flip-flop sakes, I'm just like, I don't know. I wasted all that time. Not that it took me long. I wouldn't have read it if I had known. And I just don't like those twists. Those twists, they annoy me. They annoy me. All that time, I was waiting for a big climactic, haunting sort of thing. And then I was just like, what? What? So I will probably rehome this book because I'm sure somebody will really like it. People that like, I'm thinking of ending things. I liked 80% of that book, but then it got ruined. I was just like, no. Yeah, disappointing. Another book that was not even on my TBR list was, this got ruined somehow, I don't know. The Southern Book Club Guide to Slaying Vampires. I didn't actually physically read this. I have Audible, and I got a notification that this book is on Audible free up until Halloween. I'm like, oh, I have that book up in my attic. I'll just listen to it because I like to have at least like an audiobook or two in a month. So I listened to this on audio. I did plan on actually reading it because it's a beautiful book and I like the edges and the font isn't too small and it's very good. But I'm sure most of you that read kind of horror have heard of this book anyways or seen the cover, except without the bite mark in it. It's about a book club in the 90s and of moms, and they like to read true crime and discuss it and drink and all that stuff. It's very nostalgic in regards to like the setting and the clothes and their, things going on. Some stranger moves into the neighborhood because his great aunt, second removed or something, dies, and he comes to try to settle the estate and decides to stay and wants to join the book club. And he's a very handsome man, and he's just a little strange. And there's some murders happening in the community. What are you doing? Stop it. Horace, spit it out. For God's sakes, boy. Yeah, there's murders and stuff going on in the community, and these women that are in this book club, try to, they talk about it and try to figure it out. This man, he's a little strange, and by chance is seen by one of the ladies, or they think they see him, but not sure, or they're sure, but nobody believes her, and it goes from there. I thought it was very good. It was just a minute. It was a very, fun book to read. There's social commentary in this, and, but the whole feel of it, not scary, but I don't think that was the point of it. It was just, a nice story, and I would certainly read something of this author again. I've never read anything by him. I've seen that they have My Best Friend's Exorcism for free too, and I don't think there was a time limit on it. I don't have that book, but I see a lot of people talk about that and say it's really good. But yeah, I really like this, and I would recommend it. Yeah. didn't blow my mind, but I enjoyed the whole story. Now, my favorite book of this month, I would say, was Devil's Creek by Todd Kessling. Oh, they got out there. Just a minute. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, Devil's Creek. I really liked the other ones I talked about, but I really, really like this one. This is about 15 miles west of Stafford, Kentucky, lies Devil's Creek. According to local legend, there used to be a church out there, home to the Lord's Church of Holy Voices, a death cult where Jacob Masters preached the gospel of a nameless God. Violet, stop humping him. In 1983, the church burned down following a mass suicide. Among the survivors is Jacob's 6 children, their grandparents who band together to defy their former minister. Dubbed the Stafford Six, these children grew up amidst scrutiny and ridicule, but their infamy has faded over the last 30 years. Now their ordeal is all but forgotten, and Jacob Masters is nothing more than a scary story told around campfires. For Jack Tremblay, one of the 6, memories of that fateful night have fueled a successful art career and a lifetime of nightmares. When my grandmother, Emma Jean, dies, Jack returns to Stafford to settle her estate. What he finds waiting for him are secrets Emma Jean kept in his youth. Secrets about his father and the church. Secrets that can no longer stay buried. The roots of Jacob's buried God runs deep, and within the heart of Devil's Creek, something is beginning to stir. Yes, I just wanted to read that because I'm not very good at talking about books, but this gave me the feels. If you watched on Netflix the series Midnight Mass, it reminds me of that. Now, that is about vampires. This is not vampires, but this is certainly a death cult. And this book starts off with a bang. It really does. And it just gripped me right from the beginning. It follows Jake that went back to settle his grandmother's estate. And he loved his grandmother. He has a couple siblings in the town. I think some of them have died, or I forget now. But I think there's at least 2 or 3 in the town, and you get a little bit of their backstory because they're not all successful. They're all human. But the atmosphere in this and the characters in this, there is absolutely a supernatural element in this, and that's what I like. If I go in for a supernatural, paranormal, bloody, gory time, that's what this is. And it's almost like a sentient being, evil being, that kind of slowly takes over the town. And Jack and a handful of people are seeing this happen. And it takes a little while for them to wake up to it. And near the end, they are come face to face with what they have to do to try to stop this. There's kids involved. There's yeah, it's like a whole communal horror, and I loved it. I loved every single thing of this, and I would highly recommend this if you're into cults and small town, like gothic folk sort of things. They're bumping their head on the table, honestly. I loved it. This will stick out to me, and I will absolutely read it again. I'd like to read it in order to audio to see what that's like. And this is perfect for this time of year too. It happens right around this time. But this movie, in my mind, oh, just a minute. All right, guys, I'm in a different part of my house. Violet, get going. For goodness sakes, get going. So yes, absolutely love this book. And it gave me everything that I wanted in a book like this. Yeah, I'm going to look at getting another book of his because I don't know what else he's written. Go, Violet. Get going. She's trying to crawl into my lap. I'll just quickly show you the books I did not read that were on my TBR. And they're not very long books. Maggie's Grave. Violet, go. Get going. Maggie's Grave. I still really want to read this book. It's a witch book. Cold Skin. I think I could read this in December, like it's cold. Or maybe in January. I don't know. Maybe in November. I don't know. That one. Not very long. I seem to have read all the bigger books. Another one I didn't read was The Long Shadows of October. And I planned on reading this in October because it says October. This is like a haunted house with, I don't know, a witch and, I don't know, a ghost. Halloween approaches. Yeah. This one I really wanted to read. They All Died Screaming. I could still read this sometime soon. I could read any of these, but the same author as this. Didn't get to it. And that's about a disease. You go mad because you scream and scream and scream. Once you start screaming, you can't stop screaming. I think it drives you crazy. And then Cormorant. This is like a folklore. Very not very big at all. Stephen Gregory. Yeah, those are the ones I didn't do. But I still got more reading done than I thought. Here in Canada, we have our Thanksgiving in October. And of course, Halloween. And then, of course, a whole house full of kids. And hockey started. And just everything. So I got lots of reading done for what I had to do. But just not as much as I was hoping. So there's always November. I swear to goodness. They're both right there behind you. Look behind you, they're right there. Anyways, I'm going to say peace, love, and happiness today and every single day. Please like, share, and subscribe if you so choose, but if not, that's okay too. I still love ya. I still want all the happiness in the world for each and every one of you out there. I certainly do. I really, really honest and truly do. Yes, I do. So, okay guys, with that, I'm going to say have a good night or have a good morning. And I will see you in the very near future. Bye. Kasploosh.